Shu Lili drove straight from Chen Yaji's clinic to Shu Linger's steel factory. With Ye Wudao's backing, Linger's business had been booming, far ahead of Lily's meager efforts. Now that Lily finally had some real capital, she wasn't about to let a chance to show off slip by. Inside the factory, Linger was hunched over paperwork in her office. Ye Wudao had slipped off to a corner to sneak a cigar. Linger usually kept a tight leash on him, and he hadn't smoked in 2 days, so he was making the most of the moment. Lily pulled up in a gleaming luxury car, slammed on the horn, and the sharp blast dragged Linger out of her work haze. She hurried out expecting some important client, only to freeze when she saw who stepped from the car. Xu Jiangguo sat in the passenger seat, looking sullen and refusing at first to get out. When Lily climbed down, grinning, Linger's surprise turned to thinly veiled anger. "Where did you get that car?" she demanded. "How much are you earning now? 200,000 or 300,000 a day?" Linger answered coolly, "I'm busy. It's not profit yet." "This isn't borrowed, it's mine," Lily said, flinging the words like a gauntlet. "My future husband gave it to me." Linger blinked. "You found someone? Who is he?" Lily's chest puffed up. "The eldest young master of the Beiduye family." "Beiduye?" Linger's voice dropped. "Are you sure he really loves you? Those super rich families are complicated. Be careful." Lily snorted. "Sounds to me like sour grapes because you can't reach him. Honestly, my fiancé gave me 200 million in betrothal gifts today. If he didn't love me, would he do that?" She turned her teasing on Linger. "Maybe you should reflect a little. It's one thing if your partner can't offer betrothal gifts, another if he's living off you." Xu Jiangguo's scowl softened in the car as he listened. When Lily mentioned buying a house and a car for their grandfather and father, his face smoothed into a pleased smile. Lily kept going, leaning toward Linger. "Your shabby house and that broken-down car of yours should be replaced. If the Yi family sees you like that, they'll look down on me for having poor relatives. If you really don't have money," she added magnanimously, "you can always borrow from me." Linger's eyes narrowed. "You're not going to blow all that Yi money on showy things, are you?" Lily waved the idea away. "Of course I'll enjoy myself a little, but I'm not selfish. I'll buy a house and car for Grandpa and Dad too. I'm not like some people who only think of themselves and don't respect their elders." Linger immediately shifted tactics. "You should invest it. Spend it and it's gone, but invest and it grows. By the way, I've got a promising project. Why don't we join forces and take over Fang Construction?" "Get out." Lily bristled, offended. "Nothing's even happened, and you're already eyeing my betrothal gifts. If I really marry into the Ye family, you'll be knocking on my door every day asking for money." It talked 122. "It's a blessing, not a curse, but a disaster is unavoidable." Xu Linger's face shifted through shades of green, red, and pale. Ye Wudao came up just then. When Xu Lili mentioned the Beiduye family and the 200 million in betrothal gifts, he finally understood. The betrothal gifts Ye's mother had spoken of had indeed been sent, but they had been delivered to Xu Jiangguo, not to Xu Lili. That was why Xu Lili had been under the impression they were hers. The Beiduye family had clearly thought ahead. If they'd sent the money directly to him, he would have refused. Ye Wudao's tone went cool. "I advise you not to touch those betrothal gifts," Xu Lili sniffed. "They probably sent them to the wrong place. What if they come asking for them back and you can't produce them?" "Shut up," Xu Lili replied with disgust. "You never say anything worth hearing. Do you think everyone in the world is like you, unable to even produce a proper betrothal gift?" Ye Wudao shot back. Xu Lili huffed. "I don't want to waste words on you. Dad, let's go." She left quickly, getting into the car and driving off. Left in the wake of her exit, Xu Linger felt a muddled mix of emotions, as if some 5-flavored bottle had been upended inside her. She murmured, "I always thought their proposal was a trap. The wealthy don't play fair. Lily isn't their match. Even if they're only toying with her, she can't resist them," Ye Wudao said wryly. He found it oddly relieving that Xu Linger despised wealthy clans. He hadn't revealed his identity as the god of war, or she'd be sure to break off everything with him on principle. "Don't worry about them. If it's a trap, they can jump in on their own. Nobody can stop people who want to be trapped." Xu Linger sighed. "If it's a blessing, then it's not a disaster. If it's a disaster, it can't be avoided." "Forget it. I'll get back to work on the auction, he said. Back at her office, Shulinger buried herself in work. Ye Wudao took out his phone and tapped a message to Shen Fengchun. At tomorrow's Fang construction auction, I don't want anyone competing against Linger. Shen replied, Understood. I'll inform everyone involved. He almost sent another message to the Ye family, telling them to take back the betrothal gifts because he wouldn't accept them, but he stopped himself. Instead, he decided on a slower strategy. Let Shu Lily spend the gifts, then alert the Ye family to reclaim them. People like Shu Lily needed to be taught a lesson. Shu Lily's family shopped until dark and returned home exhausted. At the gate, someone was loitering. They went on guard instantly, worried someone had come to covet the betrothal money. Up close, it was only Chen Yaji, wearing a smile that was all honey and flattery. Chen Yaji, why are you loitering by my house? Shu Lily asked. Chen Yaji smiled ingratiatingly. Lily, I have some business to discuss with you. Speak up, Shu Lily said, impatient. Chen lowered her voice conspiratorially. It's a trade secret, not convenient here. How about we go inside? Reluctantly, Shu Lily led her in. Once the door was closed, Chen Yaji grew earnest. You know my little brother became a staff sergeant, right? I heard. Shu Lily raised an eyebrow. Want me to talk to my fiancé and ask him to help promote him further? Chen Yaji hurriedly waved that away. No, not at all. My brother rose thanks to his mentor, Staff Officer Hu. That's the key. Staff Officer Hu is overseeing the Fang construction auction. My brother already has an understanding with him. At the auction, Staff Officer Hu can pull strings for me. If I have enough capital, I'm confident I can get Fang construction. Shu Lily's face went cold. So you want to use my betrothal gifts to bid on Fang construction? Chen nodded eagerly. Yes, Lily, think about it. Fang construction is worth almost $1 billion. If we can pick it up for $100 million, it's a fortune. If you help me, we can split it 6-4. You get 60, I get 40. No. Shu Lily's refusal was immediate and firm. How can I casually lend out the betrothal gifts my future husband gave me? Lily, it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Chen pressed on, desperate now. If you don't put the money in, someone else will. Think of the returns. You'd be a laughingstock if you let this slip. Shu Lily's jaw tightened. The idea of turning something given to her in trust into a risky gamble made her angry. I won't. Those gifts are not mine to pawn off on some speculation. Besides, it's dangerous. Depending on favors from Staff Officer Hu is a gamble in itself. Chen's smile faltered, then hardened into coaxing urgency. We'll do it carefully. We'll sign contracts, set up the shares so you look like the major investor, and if it fails, we split the losses the same way. No, Shu Lily's voice was deadly calm. Absolutely not. Chen stood there, pleading, trying different angles, but Shu Lily stayed unmoved. In the end, Chen left with promises to think it over, while Shu Lily closed her door and counted the impossibility of what had nearly been proposed. Her betrothal gifts were not leverage for others to seize. She would not let them be used that way. Chapter 123, Tianfang Auction House. Shu Lily's heart skipped. Fang's construction company was worth $1 billion. Now it might be had for only $100 million? The profit margin was staggering. Shu Dashan, eager, prodded, Staff Officer Hu, you mean the Staff Officer Hu from Zhou District, right? Chen Yaji nodded. Of course. Shu Dashan brightened. I never expected Chen Sanhei's people to side with Staff Officer Hu. If he's willing to help, our chances of winning Fangs are very high. This is a perfect fit for you, but we still need to think it through, Chen Yaji said. Give me your answer by tomorrow morning. When Chen Yaji left, Shu Dashan turned to his daughter. Lily, your father thinks you should team up with Chen Yaji. Imagine telling your future husband you turned $100 million into $1 billion. He'd admire you even more. Shu Lily agreed. Yes, Dad, I think that's right. And as for Shu Linger, if she plans to bid for Fangs, she can forget it while I'm around. He snorted. Those so-called betrothal gifts she and Ye Wudao suspected were a trap? I want to wipe that smug look off their faces. Then you and Chen Yaji should go to the auction house tomorrow morning, he decided. Chen Yaji knows business. Tianfang Auction House was a second-rate venue. Usually the lots there never exceeded $10 million. Yet today the starting bid for Fang's construction company was $100 million, a huge anomaly. The arrangement had been made personally by Staff Officer Hu to keep the sale quiet. Fewer people aware, less competition, better odds for Chen Sanhei's sister, Chen Yaji. What Staff Officer Hu didn't know was that Fangs had long been under the scrutiny of many powerful players. Word traveled fast. Shen Fengchun, however, had already persuaded most of those big names to stay out, so the heavy hitters didn't show. The handful who did attend were either hand-picked invitees or planted bidders. Schulinger and Yewudao arrived early. They stared at the almost empty room. Schulinger frowned. "Why are there so few people? I was told at least 10 big bosses were interested." Yewudao shrugged. "Maybe the rich don't bother to come to auctions in person." Schulinger still looked uneasy. A Rolls-Royce Wraith glided up and stopped nearby. Shu Lily and Chen Yaji stepped out. Schulinger's surprise turned to annoyance. "Lily, why are you with Chen Yaji?" Shu Lily's voice was cool. "I liked your idea yesterday about using the betrothal gifts as an investment. I'm teaming up with Chen Yaji to bid for Fang's construction company." Schulinger's face flushed. "Lily, that's too much. We're family. You could at least compete fairly with me. Don't collude with an outsider." "Are her terms better than mine?" Schulinger demanded. Lily's retort was immediate. "Who are you calling too much? Family? Have you forgotten Grandpa disowned your branch of the family and expelled Shudahai?" Schulinger was rendered speechless with anger. Yewudao, trying to sound practical, called after Lily. "Shu Lily, you're really going to use your betrothal gifts to bid? Be careful. What if the Beiduye family asks for the betrothal gifts back? If you can't produce them, you'll be in trouble." Chen Yaji snorted. "You're the last person in this room to lecture anyone about betrothal gifts, Yewudao." She smiled thinly. "Do you honestly think the Beiduye family would value a couple $100 million like you value a petty sum? $200 million is nothing to them, unlike you, who couldn't even come up with 300,000 back then." Shu Lily ignored the last barb and turned away, indignant but proud. "Humph, they're just jealous. Just wait. Once I marry into the Beiduye family, they'll have plenty to be envious of." 124. The auction begins. Schulinger sighed again, a long, soft sound. "They're getting worse and worse. Shu Lily's family treats me like I'm their enemy." "No one treats their enemies like that," Yewudao replied, trying to soothe her. "Don't worry, Linger. They'll be begging you before this is over." "Promise me one thing," she said. "If the bidding reaches 200 million, stop. Don't raise it any higher. Let them have Fang's company." "Why?" Schulinger asked, curious. "Are you planning something else?" Yewudao gave a faint, unreadable smile. "You'll see when the time comes." Schulinger rolled her eyes, one of those effortless little gestures that made her all the more disarming. "You're always so secretive. Is that entertaining for you?" He only smiled to himself. Watching your rivals driven into a corner and forced to beg, yes, it had its satisfaction. Quietly, Yewudao sent a text to someone else. "You gave the betrothal gifts to Xu Jiangguo, but he and my father-in-law have long since severed their father-son relationship. Retrieve the betrothal gifts as soon as possible." A short time later, the reply came back. "Understood." At the auction house, Staff Officer Hu Longquan called Chen Yaji into his office. "When the bidding hits 150 million, you go straight to adding 50 million. Make it 200 million, Hu instructed. Chen hesitated. "If we jump the price that much at once, other bidders might pause." "While they hesitate, I'll bring the gavel down. Fang's group will be ours," Hu said, blunt and confident. "But we agreed on 100 million, Chen protested. "Why are you changing it to 200? Hu laughed off her objection. "Nonsense. So many people are watching Fang's group tonight, it's impossible to grab it at the starting price. The friend you brought can afford it. 200 million to secure $1 billion company, that's a guaranteed profit." Chen thought for a moment, then nodded. "All right, I'll talk to her." "There's nothing to talk about. Just bid up to 200 million, Hu said. "Once it's practically ours, are you worried she won't pay?" Chen clenched her jaw. "Fine, I'll follow your lead." A small, barely noticeable smile curved Hu Longquan's mouth. Of the 200 million bid, he expected to skim a generous kickback. He stood to make a fortune tonight. The auction began. Hu Longquan personally took the stage to host and introduce Fang's construction company. Then he brought the gavel down. "The auction for Fang's construction company begins," he announced. "Starting price, 100 million. From the hall came the first bid, 110 million. 110 million, Hu repeated. Any higher? Schulinger raised her paddle almost immediately. 120 million. 120 million, Hu repeated. Anything higher? 130 million, another bidder called. Not to be outdone, Schulinger promptly went up. 140 million. A brief hush fell over the room. Shenfengchen's people, who had arranged matters beforehand, had been told to stop at 140 million. No reason to push further. Schulinger's own available funds totaled only 150 million. She was already stretching herself thin. At that moment, Chen Yaji lifted her paddle. 150 million. Shu Lily, sitting beside her, panicked. Yaji, we agreed on 100 million. 150 will leave almost nothing of my betrothal gifts. Chen spoke to her calmly. Lily, do you want Schulinger to take Fang's group? It's valued at 1 billion. Getting it for 150 million is still a massive bargain. Don't worry, I wouldn't let you make a bad deal, Chen assured her. Shu Lily glared at Schulinger for a moment, then gritted her teeth. Very well, 150 million then, as long as we beat her. Schulinger wasn't about to back down. After a beat, she raised her paddle again. 160 million. Before anyone in the hall could react, Chen Yaji slammed her paddle up. 200 million. 1,000 heads turned in unison. Whispers rippled through the room. Who was Chen Yaji to raise it to 200 million? Hadn't boss Shen Fengchun given instructions? How dare she challenge Schulinger like that? Shu Lily's face flushed with anxiety. Chen Yaji, this is too much. You're really going to throw all my betrothal gifts into this? She demanded. Chen Yaji's expression was solemn. Lily, you can't catch a wolf without risking a pup. Buying Fine Group for 200 million is still a bargain. Even if we don't keep it, we can flip it and make a few hundred million. Besides, you don't want Schulinger to walk away with it, do you? At the mention of Schulinger, a trace of malice flashed in Shu Lily's eyes. She squared her shoulders. Fine, 200 million it is. Schulinger felt torn. Fang Group meant far more to her than the money. She would gladly have paid 300 or 400 million if she could, but her pockets were empty. She looked at Ye Wudao with pleading eyes. Ye Wudao, can you help me? Can you lend me some money? Ye Wudao smiled faintly. Linger, don't bid anymore. Trust me, you'll see. Even if they win Fang Group today, they'll hand it over to you. Schulinger's shoulders slumped. If I don't have the money, I don't have the money. Why make such a show of it? Ye Wudao said nothing. In his mind, he could have outbid anyone. He could have doubled or tripled the amount if he wanted to. He didn't intend to give Schulinger any more chances. The auctioneer, Hu Longquan, brought the hammer down with a practiced cadence. 200 million. Once. 200 million. Twice. 200 million. 3 times. Congratulations to the distinguished guest in Private Room 3 for successfully acquiring Fang Company. Please proceed backstage to complete the transfer. Relief washed over Chen Yaji. Lily, no. President Shu, congratulations. Hearing himself called President Shu warmed Shu Lily's heart. She returned the smile, prim and proud. President Chen, congratulations to you as well. Humph, Shu Lily said haughtily, looking at Schulinger. Now that I have the backing of the Beiduye family, what do you have to compete with me? We should go handle the transfer paperwork, Chen Yaji said briskly. Schulinger left the auction house feeling hollow. Losing Fang Group meant more than a missed business opportunity. She'd been denied a path upward, a chance to change her place in the world. She was halfway to her car when Ye Wudao called after her. Linger, don't leave yet. What good show? She asked, puzzled. Ye Wudao glanced back toward the entrance of the hall. The leading lady's about to make her entrance. Stay and watch. Schulinger hesitated. Ye Wudao had never led her wrong. Reluctantly, she waited. After a short while, Chen Yaji and Shu Lily reappeared, radiant and full of triumph. Once, Fang Zhongxin, the founder of Fang Group, had been someone they both admired from afar. Now, somehow, they felt they had become the kind of people who could stand where he had. Seeing Schulinger still there, Shu Lily couldn't resist strutting over to flaunt her victory. Schulinger, aren't you leaving? Or are you here to talk partnership with our company? Schulinger's feelings were tangled. Anger, envy, and a foolish, fragile hope. Before she could answer, Ye Wudao stepped forward. Do you remember what I told you 10 days ago? He asked. Schulinger blinked. What did you say? In 10 days, the Fang family will be surnamed Shu. Shu Lili and Chen Yaji burst out laughing. You actually guessed it, Shu Lili said airily. The Fang family's new surname is Shu, my Shu. No, Yewudao said, his gaze drifting to the street, calm as ever. It will be the Shu of Schulinger. Shu Lili's laugh grew more contemptuous. Who gave you the nerve to say that? Yewudao smiled slightly. In the distance, a long line of black luxury cars was slowly rolling up to the curb, engines purring, tinted windows reflecting the afternoon light. Of course, he said, they did. A line of black luxury cars pulled up, drawing everyone's attention. Shu Lili's face lit up. They're from the Beiduye family, the ones who sent my betrothal gifts. They must have come to talk about the marriage, Chen Yaji said quickly, smiling. Lily, congratulations. Schulinger peered over enviously. Yewudao gave a half smile. Linger jealous? Schulinger waved the question away. Of course not. Every girl wants a grand, spectacular wedding. If even their procession for sending betrothal gifts is like that, imagine the wedding. You don't need to be jealous, Yewudao said, amusement in his voice. I promise our wedding will be 1,000 times more spectacular. It'll have the whole city talking. Schulinger giggled. Yewudao's mind wandered for a moment. Silly girl. The 10,000 hall at the Qingcheng Love Project had already caused a stir across the province. If they held the wedding there, it would eclipse anything Shu Lili could dream of. The convoy stopped and an elderly man in a tang suit stepped out, flanked by several men in black. He glanced at Yewudao with a look that was hard to read. He'd seen the boy grow up, neglected by his parents, overlooked even by his grandmother, while all the family's favor went to his twin. He'd lived like a servant, and now he'd risen so high that even the Ye family had to take notice. The old man had wanted to greet him, but Yewudao merely inclined his head slightly, and the man held back. Shu Lili hurried forward. Uncle Ye, have you come to discuss the marriage with me? Is my future husband not here? It would be better to settle this face to face. The elderly man's expression turned cold. Miss Shu, I'm sorry, but my young master is not interested. The betrothal gifts were sent to the wrong person. What? Shu Lili froze. Sent to the wrong person? That's impossible. When you delivered them before, you asked my grandfather if he was Shu Jiangguo and confirmed it. The rightful owner of those gifts happens to share the same name as your grandfather, the man replied curtly. Please return the betrothal gifts. Shu Lili felt as if the air had been knocked out of her. Return the betrothal gifts? She had used them to buy Fang's company. How could she possibly give them back now? It had to be Yewudao's doing. Everything bad seemed to orbit him. Their presence here proved it. Her mind raced. Sell Fang's company today, and she'd get at least 500 million. Return 200 million, and still walk away with 300 million. That would solve everything. Seeing her hesitation, the elderly man's impatience showed. We are in a hurry. Please don't waste our time. Panic flared. If she angered the Yi family now, she didn't stand a chance. I can return them tomorrow, she stammered. I'm selling Fang's company today. Once I've the money, I'll give you the betrothal gifts back. The man shook his head. No, the rightful owner needs those gifts immediately. Shu Lili's thoughts scrambled. There was no way she could come up with 200 million on the spot. She glanced pleadingly at Chen Yaji, only to see her backing away, keeping her distance. Of course she would. Who wanted to get tangled with the Beiduye family? Not even Hu Longquan could stand against them. Gritting her teeth, Shu Lili made a desperate offer. All right, I used those betrothal gifts to buy Fang's company. Take the company instead. It's worth 1 billion. You'd be making a huge profit. The old man's face was unreadable. We have no interest in a small Fang family's company. We want that batch of betrothal gifts. If you cannot return them, give us 200 million and we'll purchase equivalent gifts separately. Shu Lili was at the end of her rope. She turned to Schulinger, desperate. Cousin, please, help me. Lend me 200 million. Once I've auctioned off Fang's group tomorrow, I'll pay you back. Yewudao refused flatly. No, we don't have that kind of money. If we did, we'd have bid for Fang's group ourselves. Shu Lili pleaded harder. Cousin, think of something. You can raise 200 million. If worst comes to worst, I'll mortgage Fang's company to you. Schulinger's heart skipped. Buying Fang's company was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. 200 million wasn't impossible if she tried. But Yu Dao shook his head. Sorry, we don't have it. Shu Lily's voice trembled. Cousin, we're family. You can't just stand by. If I offend the Yi family, I'll lose everything, Yu Dao said coldly. Family? Don't forget, someone already made it clear she isn't part of our family. The color drained from Su Lily's face. Schulinger felt a surge of helplessness. This was a crisis, a life-or-death situation. She looked at Yu Dao, silently begging. Over the months, she had grown to rely on him, and she wouldn't make a gamble without his approval. Yu Dao smiled at her. You're still as soft-hearted as ever. Fine, for Linger's sake, we'll help. Shu Lily seized the opening. Give us Fang's construction company, and we'll give you 100 million. Shu Lily's eyes went wide. A company worth $1 billion? 100 million? You must be joking. Ye Wudao waved his hand. No time to haggle. 200 million. Cost price. Shu Lily scoffed. He held out the offer like that, then pretended to withdraw. Forget it, he said. If you won't accept, then we're done. Linger, let's go. Panic seized Shu Lily. She grabbed Su Linger's arm. Cousin, if you leave, I'm lost. She tried to bargain again. All right, 100 million now, and another 100 million later. That will at least get me through this. Ye Wudao looked to Schulinger. What do you think? Schulinger nodded quickly. Okay, no problem. The old man in the Tang suit, who had been watching quietly, was told by Ye Wudao, You can go back now. We'll arrange the transfer shortly. The old man bowed and left with his people. Relief washed over Shu Lily. Good. Arrange for someone to transfer the money right away, then draft a contract and bring it to me to sign. She had already decided she would renege once the funds showed up. She wouldn't sign the transfer. After she handled Fang's company, she would simply return 200 million and keep the rest. She moved to slip away. But Ye Wudao was not leaving anything to chance. He caught her hand, produced a contract, and placed a pen in front of her. I already had the contract drawn up. Just sign. Shu Lily froze. With no escape, she had to sign. Sheepishly, she did. Shu Linger watched the signed document with a new kind of interest. Ye Wudao had anticipated the Ye family's interference and come prepared. How had he known they might try to demand the betrothal gifts back? Could he be connected to the Beidou Ye family? The force and confidence he'd shown earlier suddenly made more sense. Shu Lily walked away in a daze. Once she was out of earshot, Schulinger turned to Ye Wudao with eager eyes. You had the contract ready already? You knew all along the Fang family would send the betrothal gifts to the wrong person? Ye Wudao nodded. Didn't I tell you a few times that the Fangs would take the betrothal gifts back? How did you know? Schulinger asked, curious. He smiled. I heard long ago that the girl the Fang family's young master fancies is the most beautiful and kindest girl in the world. Shu Lily isn't worthy of him, Ye added. Most beautiful and kindest in the world? She must be unreal, Schulinger said, half laughing. Ye Wudao pulled out his phone, snapped a quick picture of her, and held it up. Right here. Schulinger flushed and swatted his hand. Smooth talker. I'm not staying long, Ye said, tossing the cigarette between his fingers. I have to go back and consolidate Fang Group. With Fang Group, our family's strength will take a qualitative leap. Linger, he continued. You go on ahead. I'm visiting an old acquaintance. She didn't think much of it and nodded, climbing into the car to leave. Yi lit another cigarette, settled into a nearby bench, and exhaled a long stream of smoke. Not long after, the convoy of luxury cars that had driven off returned. The old man in the Tang suit led a small delegation toward Ye, bowing respectfully. Young Master Ye gave a curt nod. You don't have to be so formal with me. The old man, Uncle Ye, had sheltered Ye Wudao back when he was a child at the Fang household. If not for him, Yi's childhood would have been far worse. That history explained the younger man's restraint and the older man's devotion. The old man sighed. Young master, you've suffered out there these past years. Yi shrugged. Compared to what I went through in the Fang family, this is nothing. All right, Uncle Ye, I have to go. Don't come looking for me unless it's important. The old man's mouth opened and closed a few times. He had many things he wanted to say, but kept them to himself. Yi seemed to see through his hesitation and cut him off. Don't try to persuade me. I won't go back. The Ye who was bullied and humiliated is dead. The me now has nothing to do with the Fang family. With that, he turned and walked away. The old man watched his retreating figure, emotion heavy in his chest. The Beiduya family is invincible and triumphant in business, he muttered, but this time they truly made the wrong investment. Meanwhile, Shu Lili returned home in a fog. Her father, Shu Jianguo, and her brother, Shu Deshan, were still basking in the imagined glory of marrying into wealth. They were deep in an argument about what formal wear to wear at the wedding when they saw her. "Lily, how did the auction go? Did you secure the Fang family?" Shu Deshan jumped up to greet her. Shu Lili's face went pale. "Dad, we didn't. Not only did we lose the Fang family, but we now owe Shu Linger 100 million. The room went silent. Shu Jianguo and Shu Dashan's hearts leapt into their throats. Their carefully laid plan had failed. Worse, they were indebted for a vast sum. "Lily, what happened?" Shu Jianguo demanded. She told them everything: the auction, the mistake with the betrothal gifts, how Ye Wudao and Shu Linger had ended up taking the Fang family for 100 million. By the time she finished, the two men felt as if they'd been struck by lightning. The betrothal gifts were sent to the wrong person. Shu Dashan snarled. "This is unbearable. They bought the Fang family, worth 1 billion, for 100 million. That's taking advantage." "No," Shu Jianguo said through gritted teeth. "We won't just sit back and pay them. We'll refuse to pay that 100 million and demand more, another 200 million. Even selling the Fang family back to them for 400 million would be a steal," Shu Dashan muttered, eyes gleaming at the thought of seizing back control. Chapter 129, Unkind Person. Shu Lili felt the world collapse. "Dad, it's too late. I've already signed the contract." "My God." Shu Dashan nearly stopped breathing. Ye Wudao had completely cut off their last chance. Shu Jianguo, who looked years older all of a sudden, slammed his palm on the table. "Enough. We should have listened to Linger and worked with her from the start," he said bitterly. "If we had, she would have been able to come up with the money to cover the Yi family's betrothal gift, and we might still have kept shares in Fang's company." The realization made Shu Dashan beat his fist against his knee, wailing with regret. But remorse came too late. Shu Jianguo sighed. "What's meant to be will be, and what isn't meant to be shouldn't be forced. Stop thinking about getting money from Linger. If she can wipe out that 100 million debt this time, consider it a blessing." Shu Dashan ground his teeth. If this had happened before, Linger would have listened to us and paid off that 100 million, but now she has Ye Wudao behind her. That man is hard as iron. Shu Jianguo stared into the distance, thoughtful. Since Ye Wudao's arrival, Shu Linger's career had leapt forward by bounds. Time and again they had been outmaneuvered. He couldn't shake the feeling that Ye Wudao wasn't an ordinary man. "Could the Yi family have deeper backing?" he murmured. At that moment, two people strode in, Chen Yaji and staff officer Hu Longquan. Shu Lili's face went pale as she realized what that meant. Fang's company had been jointly acquired by the three of them. Chen Yaji and Hu Longquan held shares too. Now that she had sold Fang's company to Shu Linger, they wouldn't be so understanding about collecting what they were owed. Shu Jianguo went to the door and bowed with outward ease. "Officer Hu, what an honor. Please forgive our failure to meet you at the gate. Do come in." Hu Longquan, a military man who inspired real fear, waved him off with a cold look. "No need. I'm here for one thing," he said bluntly, "to get back my shares in Fang's company." Every member of the Shu family stiffened. Shu Lili hurried to explain, pleading, "Mr. Hu, you must have heard what happened today. I had no choice. I mortgaged the company to save my life." Hu snorted, expression hard as stone. "I don't care about your reasons. I care about getting my shares back. If you can't produce them today, then you might as well wait to die." Shu Jianguo was on the verge of collapse. "Mr. Hu, have mercy. Please don't hold this against us. With our finances now, how could we possibly come up with that kind of money?" According to the books, Hu's shares were worth hundreds of millions. They couldn't even scrape together thousands. Hu's fury only deepened. "Then wait to die," he repeated flatly. Chen Yaji stepped forward. "Mr. Hu, please don't be so hasty. Listen to me." She turned to the Shu family. "To be honest, even if we sold everything the Shu family owns, we still wouldn't raise much. But I have a way to get Fang's company back, and more. It will require full cooperation from the Shu Jianguo family." Shu Lili grabbed at the hope. "Yaji, tell us. We'll do whatever you say." Chen Yaji's eyes narrowed. Do you remember Chu Dalong and his men, the four King Kongs? Shu Lily blinked. Chu Dalong? Wasn't he just Linger's former raw material supplier for her steel mill? Hu Longquan? Chen Yaji nodded. He's the one. The four King Kongs were just muscle he hired. They supposedly died in an accident some time ago. As far as I know, Chu Dalong was killed only a few days after he did business with Shu Linger. I strongly suspect Chu Dalong's death and the deaths of the four King Kongs were acts of revenge, a plot arranged by Ye Wu Dao. Bastard, Hu Longquan exploded. 5 lives, that's unforgivable. Yaji, Hu Longquan asked more calmly, do you have any proof that Ye Wu Dao killed them? Chen Yaji said, yes, we do have proof. Someone saw Ye Wu Dao that day. Right after Chu Dalong mortgaged his raw material factory to Shu Linger, someone saw Ye Wu Dao driving and forcing Chu Dalong's car off the bridge. Who saw it? Hu Longquan demanded. Chen Yaji looked at the Shu family with a loaded expression. The Shu household stiffened. They understood her implication. She wanted them to lie under oath. To perjure themselves and send a man to death for a small gain was abhorrent. They hesitated, about to refuse. Hu Longquan's voice turned cold. Did you see it or not? If you didn't, we have other avenues. Fang's company will be seized. My troops are outside and ready to move. The mention of the army made the Shu family's resolve crumble. Facing soldiers at their door, saving one's skin mattered more than the fate of a stranger. Shu Dahai swallowed, forced himself steady, and blurted, I saw it. Hu Longquan sneered. Good, very good. Tomorrow you'll come with us and cooperate. We'll take back what's ours. When Chen Yaji and Hu Longquan left the Shu residence, they exchanged a satisfied look. Coercing the Shu family into false testimony had been planned from the start. Both of them had the same objective, to destroy Ye Wu Dao and reclaim the Fang group. Meanwhile, for the sake of Ye Wu Dao's happiness, Cheng Xiaoyu had moved out. Ye Wu Dao and Shu Linger were back under the same roof, though Shu Linger, old-fashioned and cautious, still had him sleeping on the floor. She'd spent the day integrating Fang's company into her own enterprise and collapsed into bed the moment she lay down. Ye Wu Dao, of course, lay awake. With a woman that beautiful beside him, how could any man sleep? Bored and restless, he was about to reach for his phone when a message appeared from Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf, God of War, I just received a confidential tip that Hu Longquan in Zhao District is gathering evidence accusing you of murdering Chu Dalong. He's after you. Ye Wu Dao texted back, Hu Longquan? I don't know him. Handle it yourself. I'd rather spend time with Linger. Lone Wolf replied, God of War, I checked on Hu Longquan. He's suspected of colluding with the enemy and betraying the country. The current evidence isn't conclusive yet, though. At the words colluding with the enemy, Ye Wu Dao's jaw tightened. As the guardian of Yanxia's peace, he hated betrayal more than almost anything. He answered, gather the proof. I'll go to Zhou District myself tomorrow. Understood, Lone Wolf responded. Before dawn the next morning, Ye Wu Dao left in a hurry without breakfast, heading straight to the military district over the Hu Longquan matter. He didn't tell Shu Linger the truth. He only said he was meeting an old friend. She didn't question him. As usual, she washed, ate, and left the house with Shu Dahai and Li Yuhuan. Shu Linger to work on the Love of the City project, Shu Dahai and Li Yuhuan to Huichun Medical Clinic to lend a hand. They had barely reached the bottom of the steps when 2 vans screeched to a halt and blocked their path. A handful of familiar faces climbed out, closing in around them. The first van pulled up with Hu Longquan and 4 soldiers. A second followed, carrying Shu Jiangguo, Shu Dashan, Shu Lily, and Chen Yaji. That odd lineup left the Shu household staring in disbelief. Shu Linger approached them, confused. What are you doing here? Hu Longquan's voice was cold. Where's Ye Wu Dao? He went out, she answered. Why are you looking for him? Hu snorted. Went out? Humph. I think he ran off to avoid punishment. Ran off to avoid punishment? Shu Linger bristled. Don't go slandering decent people. We now have plenty of evidence that Chu Dalong and the 4 King Kongs were killed by him, Hu said. You'd better hand Ye Wu Dao over and cooperate with our investigation. Fear went through the room. 5 deaths. This was no small accusation. Impossible, Shu Linger protested. You're talking nonsense. Ye Wu Dao couldn't have killed anyone. Chen Yaji cut in. Linger, don't be stubborn. Someone has already testified that they saw Ye Wu Dao kill someone. Who? Shu Linger demanded. Chen Yaji glanced at Shu Dashan. Shu Dashan cleared his throat. Linger, we all personally saw Ye Wudao kill Chu Dalong. Stop hiding him. Hand him over now, and you'll be spared. If you don't, you'll be harboring a murderer. The room erupted. Shu Dahai's family was stunned. How could they have personally seen anything? When Chu Dalong drove off at the Tuo River, Grandpa and eldest uncle had been working at the steel mill. They could not have witnessed Chu Dalong's death. It had to be a frame-up. Shu Dahai lost his temper. He jabbed a finger at Shu Dashan and shouted, "Big brother, I know you've got a grudge against Ye Wudao, but you can't take someone's life like this. He's my niece's husband. How could you be so heartless?" Shu Dashan showed a flicker of guilt. What he was doing had crossed a line. Then he hardened again, thinking of the fortune at stake. "Shu Dahai, don't be foolish. I'm upholding justice, even if it's against my own family. If you keep this up, I'll sue you for defamation," Shu Dahai shouted. "Go ahead and sue," Shu Dashan snapped. Hu Longquan smiled coldly. "You can file suits all you want, but the law answers to me right now." He leaned forward. "With 3 witnesses backing me and the evidence I have, it'll be easy to get Ye Wudao convicted. He could be sentenced to death." Those words hit them like a blow. Hu Longquan had the clout to make it happen. Then, as if to taunt them, Hu shifted tone. "Still, I recognize Ye Wudao's value as a medical talent. I'm willing to give him a chance." Schulinger was quick to ask, "What do you mean?" Hu Longquan laid it out flatly. "Hand over every business registered under your name, and this matter will be dropped." "Never." Li Yuhuan's voice rang out. "Those businesses are the result of Linger's lifelong work, more important than her own life. We will never give them to you, shameless men." "Then I'll issue an arrest warrant," Hu said. "Wait." Schulinger forced herself to breathe and calm down. "Let me call Ye Wudao first." Li Yuhuan's eyes lit up. "Yes, call Xiao Ye. He'll know what to do." At that moment, Ye Wudao was in the Zhao district, poring over evidence tying Hu Longquan to collusion and treason. Hearing Schulinger's terse explanation, Ye slammed his hand on the table so hard the steel pen cracked into dust. "Bastards," he spat. "They found out already?" "You came to my doorstep, so don't blame me if I don't hold back," he muttered. Then to Schulinger, "Don't hand over the businesses. Don't listen to Hu Longquan. I'll be back." "Don't come back yet," Schulinger said quickly. "Hu Longquan has soldiers. If you show up now, they might seize you on the spot." "I'll stall them," Yi promised. "You keep them talking and don't give in. I'll come after we've made a plan." He hung up and crushed the last fragments of the pen between his fingers until they turned to dust. "Lone Wolf, take the team," he ordered. Lone Wolf snapped to attention. "God of War, how many should I bring?" "Zhou District, full mobilization," Ye said. Lone Wolf's face lit up. Over 50,000 from the Zhou District, deployed. The God of War was finally making a move. Lone Wolf heard the old words his commander often used echoing in his head. "When the dragon lifts its head, the yellow river will run backward. When the tiger returns to the mountain, half the sky will be stained with blood." Chapter 132, Kill First and Play Later. Schulinger ended the call and forced herself to sound calm. "I need time to think over the terms you've proposed. I'll give you an answer tomorrow." She was buying time, hoping to negotiate. Hu Longquan snorted. "Don't play games. We don't have time for bargaining. Hand over the businesses registered in your name now, or I'll have a warrant issued immediately," he said. "Once the warrant is out, even if Ye Wudao runs to the ends of the earth, he'll be caught." He leaned in, voice cold and final. "Once he's in custody, execute first, report later." Execute first, report later. The words hit like a blow. Schulinger felt the world narrow. Money could be replaced, Ye Wudao could not. She was about to agree when a wild laugh cut through the tension. "Good, good, very good," Shu Dahai laughed, eyes bright with a strange, feverish light. "Father, eldest brother, you've done splendidly." He stood, a small, usually timid man, suddenly towering with a desperate resolve. "I admit it. I killed Chu Dalong and the 4 King Kongs. It was me, no one else." Schulinger and Li Yuhuan stared at him, stunned. Shu Dahai, so often cowardly and silent, was now taking the blame for Ye Wudao. It was the last thing they expected. "Dahai, don't be rash," Schulinger urged. "We can resolve this. If it's about the businesses, we can hand them over. We'll start over." Dahai smiled, but it was a smile without humor. "Linger, don't be a fool. Dogs are never satisfied." He swept his gaze over the men in uniform and back to his father. Give them the factory this time. What then? The next time? The time after that? They'll hold it over us forever. I won't let my daughter become somebody else's puppet. He fixed his father with bloodshot eyes. Father, you're forcing your son to his death. When I'm executed, I hope you'll be there to watch me bleed out. Shu Jiangguo's face was hard as stone. No pity softened his expression, only contempt. Shu Dahai, you good-for-nothing, he spat. You are the biggest mistake I ever made. What kind of drug did that scoundrel Ye Wudao slip you to make you so deluded? Say another word for him, and I will disown you. Dahai laughed again, bitter and fearless. Disown me? Father, have you forgotten how many times you've already said that? Weren't you always worried someone would fight you for the inheritance? There. Problem solved. When I die, nobody will contest it. He stalked closer, voice trembling. All those things you call yours, which did I and Linger not give you out of filial duty? What have you ever given me? Su Dashan bristled. Nonsense. Who's coveting father's inheritance? But his voice sounded uncertain. Dahai pushed harder. Not coveting it, he shot back. When father fainted last time, you stopped people from saving him. You wanted him gone, didn't you? Shu Jiangguo frowned. Dashan prevented people from saving me? He demanded. Dashan, didn't you say it was Dahai who stopped them? Shu Dashan's face flickered. He opened his mouth to argue, but then changed the subject too quickly, trying to deflect the accusation. The atmosphere in the room had become a tinderbox of old grievances and new threats. Hu Longquan cut through it with a single motion. He signaled, and the 4 soldiers with him grabbed Shu Dahai. Since you're courting death, I'll grant your wish, he said coldly. And this is only the beginning. The whole Shu family will be buried with you. The commotion had spilled out into the building. It was rush hour. Neighbors were leaving for work, and the noise drew them to the courtyard. Curious faces pressed against windows and doors. As they learned a few scattered details, whispers swelled into a chorus of alarm and gossip. Chapter 133. Whoever makes you cry, I'll make him bleed. My heavens, Su family's son-in-law is actually a murderer. He's killed 5 people. Big deal. He served 5 years, has a record. A leopard can't change its spots. Told you, all that money of his, it came from murder and robbery. The Su family stood there, humiliated and sinking under the whispers. Outside, the city was in uproar. Ye Wudao's force of 50,000 was marching toward the residential compound. With so many troops, the government had sealed the roads and cleared the area, letting only his columns pass. From behind their windows, the citizens of Linhai watched the army and trembled. Something major was about to happen. When Ye Wudao's soldiers reached the compound, they sealed it in 3 concentric cordons. Inside the high walls, the residents couldn't see what was going on. Ye Wudao left a subordinate, Lone Wolf, at the gate. Wait here. Follow orders, he said. Lone Wolf saluted. Understood. Ye Wudao drove into the compound. A man sat in the passenger seat, a mysterious figure Ye had brought as a gift for Hu Longquan. From the car, Ye spotted Shu Dahai bound and gagged, while Li Yuhuan and Shu Linger were sobbing. The sight stabbed at him like needles. He's asking for death, Ye muttered, and slammed the accelerator. He cut the wheel and stopped the car right in front of Hu Longquan, then climbed out. The Shu family erupted. Ye Wudao, leave. They're going to arrest you. Yi drew a breath and forced his rage down. Linger, don't worry. I'll sort this out. Hu Longquan laughed. You'll sort it out? With what exactly? Today I'll wipe out your Shu family. An officer stepped forward and read the charge aloud. Ye Wudao, you are suspected of murdering Chu Delong and the 4 King Kongs. Cooperate with our investigation. Chu Delong? The name hit Ye like a blow. Chu Delong wasn't killed by me, Ye said coldly. But today, I will kill you. Not killed by you? Hu sneered. Then provide proof. Proof? Ye's lips curled. Fine, I'll give you proof. In the next instant, Ye grabbed Hu Longquan's head and slammed it hard into the windshield of the car. The force shattered the glass. Hu's body slumped outside while his skull drove into the vehicle. A collective gasp swept over the courtyard. The air froze. No one could believe an ex-convict had struck Hu Longquan, the second in command of Zhou District, a man even the city head deferred to. Yi must be finished, people thought. Chen Yaji in the crowd felt a private, cold delight. Even if they hadn't proven Yi a murderer yet, this outrage alone would finish him. She was glad she dumped him. Shu Dahai was ashen. Trembling, he cried, Yewu Dao, take Linger and run. Leave Yanxia and never come back. Leave Yanxia? Shu Linger, in tears, clawed at Ye. You lunatic, what are you doing? Run, he urged. Yi gently wiped at her cheeks. Only I get to bully my wife, no one else. Whoever makes you cry, I'll make him bleed, he declared, voice low and steady. Hu Longquan lay motionless against the car. He wasn't unconscious, he was simply stunned out of his wits. Everyone stared, but it was the passenger in Yi's car who had done the real damage. The man in the passenger seat pushed open the door and stepped out. It was Chu Delong, alive. Seeing him there, very much alive, left Hu Longquan pale and speechless. The sight overturned everything. Chapter 134. Did you call me here? The man who had just been called up was none other than today's victim, Chu Delong, the very person Yewu Dao had supposedly killed. Impossible. He wasn't dead? How could he be standing there alive? In truth, Yewu Dao had never meant to actually kill Chu Delong. The threat of death had been enough. After Chu Delong plunged into the river, Lone Wolf had pulled him from the water and sent him to the frontier. When he was needed again, Lone Wolf arranged a military helicopter to bring him back. Chu Delong stepped out of the car and smiled faintly at Hu Longquan, whose face went pale. He had no idea how to respond. The crowd was stunned into silence. The dead man had returned. If Chu Delong was alive, the murder charge collapsed. Relief washed over Shu Linger's family. Tears of joy sprang to their eyes. Chen Yaji and Shu Lili, who had been so confident moments before, suddenly looked as if the ground had dropped from beneath them. The possibility of false accusations now hung over them. Yewu Dao's voice was calm. Staff Officer Hu, isn't this enough to prove my innocence? Hu Longquan refused to back down. Even if Chu Delong lived, what about the 4 King Kongs? I can still suspect you killed them. Yewu Dao glanced at Chu Delong. Chu Delong hurried to speak up. When the crash happened, De Jinggang was driving. He'd been drinking and drove off Tuhai River Bridge. Luckily, I managed to climb out. The 4 King Kongs weren't so fortunate. This was the 4 King Kong's own doing. It has nothing to do with Mr. Ye. Shu Linger's family finally breathed again. With Chu Delong, the key witness, standing there to testify, Hu Longquan couldn't frame Yewu Dao. Hu's sneer cut through the air. Good, very good. Yewu Dao, do you really think you can get away with beating me like this? I can still see that you rot in prison. Yewu Dao shrugged. I doubt you'll get the chance. He let his eyes drift to the entrance of the residential complex. Lone Wolf, who had been waiting there, caught the look and acted at once. He raised his hand and fired into the air. Bang! The single gunshot snapped everyone's attention toward the gate. What they saw a moment later made their jaws drop. Heavily armed soldiers poured through the entrance like a tide, overwhelming numbers, an imposing presence. Hundreds, then thousands. Soon the courtyard was completely filled. A dense, seething crowd of troops stood beyond the gate as well. How many had come? Panic rippled through the neighborhood. People scattered, fleeing indoors and slamming doors shut. Shu Linger's family clung to one another, legs going weak. Shu Linger gripped Yewu Dao's hand. Yewu Dao, come on, let's go home, quick. Yewu Dao smiled faintly. Why leave so soon? The show's just getting good. It's the middle of the day, Shu Linger snapped, exasperated. Is now really the time for theatrics? Shu Dahai brightened suddenly. Xiaoye, tell Dad, did you call them? Shu Linger and Li Yuhuan looked at Yewu Dao with new hope. He'd come so boldly, dared to strike Hu Longquan. Did he really have this much backing? Yewu Dao gave an easy smile. You'll see in a moment. Shu Linger jabbed him in the arm with mock anger. Stop teasing. Hu Longquan stood frozen, bewildered. What was this? It looked as if the entire Zhao district force had been mobilized, but as staff officer of the district, he hadn't been told a thing. Who were they here for? Chapter 135, The Son-in-Law of the Shu Family is so awesome. Before he could think it over, Lone Wolf strode out and barked, Hu Longquan, you deserve to die 1,000 deaths. Hu Longquan felt his blood run cold. They really had come for him. He snapped to attention. Chief, I don't understand. What have I done? Lone Wolf's face was hard. Fang's group was once a military contractor. The military entrusted you with its auction. Instead, you rigged the bidding and caused the military huge losses. That's a serious crime. Hu's whole body went rigid. How had this blown up so fast? It had been a relatively small scheme, something that under normal circumstances would have drawn only an internal reprimand. That was why he dared to manipulate it in secret. Now the entire military was mobilized. This wasn't playing by the rules. "It's a misunderstanding," Hu stammered. "I didn't." "Save your excuses for the court." Lone Wolf cut him off coldly. "Men, detain him." Soldiers surged forward and grabbed Hu Longquan. The cold metal of the handcuffs made his face go ashen. Lone Wolf swung his glare toward Shu Lily and Chen Yaji. "You two were bidders for Fang's group as well. Your hands may not be clean either. We'll investigate thoroughly. If you were involved, there will be no leniency." Shu Lily and Chen Yaji were nearly shaken to pieces. If the military had them in its sights, there wouldn't be a way out. Lone Wolf didn't linger. He was gone within 10 minutes. Shu Linger clutched Ye Wudao's hand. "Come on, let's go home." They needed to sort this out now. Li Yuhuan and Shu Dahai hurried after them. Shu Jiangguo called for Shu Dahai, but got no answer. Shu Dahai ignored him. The silence made Shu Jiangguo uneasy. He muttered, "Do you think this team was called by Ye Wudao?" Shu Dashan snapped, "Dad, what are you talking about?" "Lone Wolf said they came because of the Fang's group auction," Shu Jiangguo said. "This can't be just coincidence." Shu Lily and Chen Yaji exchanged looks and forced nods. Shu Jiangguo snorted. If he had that much influence, why was he imprisoned for 5 years back then? Shu Lily turned on Chen Yaji in anger. "This is your fault. If you hadn't dragged me into that auction, none of this would have happened. Now the military's watching both of us." Chen Yaji shot back. "Don't try to pin this on me. It's your greed that got us into this." "Stop arguing," Shu Jiangguo cut in. "The priority is clearing ourselves of any suspicion we manipulated the auction." "That's easier said than done," Shu Lily said. "Once the military starts looking at you, it's not so simple." Chen Yaji tried to be practical. "My younger brother is a non-commissioned officer now. He has some pull in the army. We'll have to ask him for help. Besides, Staff Officer Hu clearly has a powerful patron. He's not going to be toppled overnight." Shu Jiangguo clapped a hand to his forehead. "Right. Contact Chen Sane. He should be able to help." Outside, the neighbors were already buzzing. Could it really be that the military raid was tied to the Shu family's son-in-law? If so, what kind of connections did he have? This quiet, low-end community might be hiding a dragon. In the apartment block's security room, Captain Zhang held a cigarette between trembling fingers. He had long suspected that the old Shu family's son-in-law had connections in Zhonghai. Today's events confirmed it. He felt a flash of relief wash over him, thankful that, months ago, he hadn't quarreled with the old Shu family over a parking space. The Shu house felt like an interrogation room. Shu Linger and her parents pressed around Ye Wudao as if he were a suspect, watching him with narrowed eyes. The attention made him uncomfortable. "Do you have questions?" he asked. "Ask them. I'll tell you everything." "How honest are you? Was it really you who summoned that army?" Shu Linger demanded. Ye Wudao nodded. The family stiffened. "If you're going to be honest, what are you really?" her father asked. Ye took a breath. He couldn't hide it any longer. "I'm the god of war." Shu Linger stared at him for a long moment, then burst out, half laughing, half crying. "You've got to be kidding. The god of war was in prison for 5 years?" "He stood by an ordinary girl for 5 years, taking all the beatings and the insults without fighting back? At your wedding, you couldn't even bring a 300,000 betrothal gift, and you had to, ask the bridesmaid to step in and save face? What's wrong with that?" He said calmly. "The god of war is still human. He has problems like anyone else." Shu Linger shook her head in amazement. "You've got nerve. You're pretending to be some big shot now, when it's so obvious what really happened. It was Lone Wolf who raided Hu Longquan over the Fang Group auction. He came for Hu. You just happened to walk into it." He wanted to laugh and cry at once. He'd already admitted enough. If she didn't want to believe him, he couldn't force it. And he didn't want his revelation to create distance between them. He wasn't ready for that. So he smiled easily. "If that's what you think, fine. Today was just my luck." His calm answer relaxed Shu Linger's parents visibly. If he'd insisted he was some powerful warlord capable of summoning 50,000 soldiers with a word, they might have regretted their daughter's relationship. What ordinary girl could match a man like that? Better, they thought, for him to be common and steady. Schulinger muttered, "If you'd told us before, we wouldn't have looked down on you just because you're not some nobleman." "All right, no more drama. I'm off to work," Schulinger said, standing. "Wu Dao, are you coming?" "I have to visit an old acquaintance later," Ye said. "I'll stay behind." "Another old acquaintance?" she grumbled as she left. "You know so many people." Her parents left for the clinic, and the house quieted. Ye Wu Dao took out his phone and dialed. "God of War, what are your orders regarding Hu Longquan?" Lone Wolf's voice was flat on the other end. "Let him compensate Fang Group for what he caused, then release him," Ye replied. Lone Wolf didn't sound convinced. "You want to just let him walk away?" "Yes," Ye said. "Think of it like casting a long line to catch a big fish. I strongly suspect Hu Longquan has someone backing him and that he still has men beneath him. If we hold him now, those people will scatter. If we release him after getting restitution, he won't just accept it quietly. He'll contact his backers and his remaining men. Then we'll have a chance to draw them out and wipe them all out in one sweep. Collusion with the enemy has to be crushed at the root. If we don't, it'll come back even stronger later." "Understood," Lone Wolf said shortly. Yi hung up and went downstairs. Chu Delong was still standing there, trembling. Whether he lived or died, stayed or fled, his fate hung on the next few words. "Mr. Ye," Chu began, voice shaking. Yi put him in a hard, appraising look. "You've been involved with the underworld." Chu Delong swallowed and nodded. "I've got some influence down there." "Good," Yi said. "Round up your old men, stay put and wait for my orders." Ecstasy replaced fear on Chu's face. Not only had Yi spared him, he might be kept on. He hurried off to make the calls. Ye Wu Dao watched him go and allowed himself a small, dry smile. Sometimes, he thought, it's the small fry who turn out to be useful. 137. Use small things to make big things happen. In Zhou District, Hu Longquan was not hauled before the military court. He was released after paying a fine. He assumed his old superior had pulled strings to protect him. What he did not suspect was that Ye Wu Dao had deliberately let him go, letting the tiger return to the mountains. As soon as he was free, Hu Longquan sought out his apprentice, Chen Sanhe, the younger brother of Chen Yaji. Chen already knew everything that had happened. The moment Hu appeared, the apprentice swore his loyalty. "Master, that scoundrel Ye Wu Dao dared to strike you. It's unforgivable." "Shall I have someone teach him a lesson?" Chen asked. Hu Longquan shook his head. "A lesson isn't enough. I want him to lose everything, so he understands that hitting me has a bloody price." "You've already planned your revenge?" Chen pressed. Hu nodded. "Yes, but I'm fresh out of custody. It's not wise for me to show my face. You must take charge." "No problem," Chen promised. "Don't worry, Master. I'll make him pay." Hu gave a faint, satisfied smile and leaned closer. He whispered his plan. When he finished, a cold, pleased grin curved Chen Sanhe's mouth. "Brilliant, Master. Use a small stake to win big." "Humph. Ye Wu Dao, let's see how you survive this," Chen murmured. That same day, under the pretense of going home to visit relatives, Chen Sanhe left the army. He didn't go home at all. He went straight to Zhou village and sought out Zhou Hu, a former soldier who had served under Hu Longquan. Zhou Hu had been discharged early for disciplinary violations and returned to his village, where he had become a local bully. Over the years, he'd kept up secret ties with Hu Longquan, helping with some of Hu's less savory schemes. When Zhou Hu learned Chen had come on Hu's behalf, he was ecstatic. He welcomed Chen warmly and invited him in. After pouring tea, he asked respectfully, "Mr. Chen, what are Staff Officer Hu's orders this time?" Chen said, "I hear Zhou village is slated for demolition." Zhou Hu nodded. "That's right. The Qingcheng's Love Project is taking land across the county. They're seizing our fields." Chen fixed him with a steady look. "Staff Officer Hu wants you to absolutely stop that demolition." Zhou Hu blinked. "What? Staff Officer Hu has taken an interest in this land?" Chen smiled faintly. "Not the land. Staff Officer Hu has a grudge against the general manager of the Qingcheng's Love Project. He wants to strike at the project. This plot is the linchpin of the whole deal," Chen continued. "If they can't secure this land, the entire project will collapse. The general manager will breach his contract with the Shen family, lose everything, and maybe even end up in prison." Zhou Hu ground his teeth. "Humph. Anyone who dares offend Staff Officer Hu is asking for it." "Don't worry," Zhou Hu added quickly. "The villagers are already reluctant to be uprooted. With me standing in the way, they won't be able to carry out the demolition. Chen clapped a hand to Zhou Hu's shoulder. Do it well. Staff Officer Hu promised a generous reward if you succeed. Zhou Hu glowed at the prospect. Thank you, Staff Officer Hu. Chen gave a few more instructions, then left in a hurry to set the next part of the plan in motion. Meanwhile, Yewudao was at home, poring over a report Lone Wolf had sent him, an outline of Hulongquan's network within the military. Ye intended to comb it for collaborators, to find out who among them might be betraying the country like Hu had. He was absorbed in the files when his phone rang. It was Shu Linger. Yewudao, she said, voice urgent. You need to get to Zhou Village right away. Xiao Yuer may be in danger. It can't be measured by money. It can't be measured by money. Shu Linger's voice trembled on the line. Yewudao's heart jumped. What happened to Xiao Yuer? Yewudao liked his mischievous sister-in-law, Xiao Yuer, and had always treated her like family. The thought of her in danger sent him into a panic. Shu Linger answered, I put Xiao Yuer in charge of the early demolition for the Qingcheng Love Project. She ran into violent resistance in Zhou Village. They got into a fight. Xiao Yuer must not be hurt, he said. Don't worry, I'll be right there. He hung up and drove straight for Zhou Village. The village was remote, poorly connected to the outside world. About 5 or 6 kilometers out, the road ended, and only a narrow footpath continued. Cars couldn't go further. Yewudao had to abandon his vehicle and walk. Spring was at its peak, the breeze fresh, fields turning green, wheat thick and lush, but he barely registered the scenery. He kept his head down and hurried along the path. A few steps later, something on the embankment caught his eye. He stopped, stooped, and plucked a small plant. He examined it in his palm, then eagerly tore off a blade and tasted it. His eyes lit up. Rejuvenation grass, he whispered. Rejuvenation grass, ranked 7th among the 10 most precious herbs. Rejuvenation grass was extraordinarily rare, said to grow only in the 4 great medicinal fields of Yanxia. What was it doing here? He scanned the embankment and found more of the same. Where a single plant existed, there were suddenly many. Yewudao's excitement deepened. This wasn't a small patch, it was a proper medicinal field. My Yanxia only has 4 official medicinal fields, he thought, heart racing. The rare herbs from them have saved countless soldiers, but they still never meet the army's needs. If this was an additional field, if this patch could be properly harvested and protected, the lives it could save would be immeasurable. The value of such a find went far beyond money. He had led 1,000 troops to force the 8 nations to sign the alliance treaty and achieve deeds many would call historic, but he had never felt such a rush of exhilaration as now. Finding a medicinal field, this was a discovery that could change lives. Footsteps approaching pulled him back. Cheng Xiaoyu and the demolition crew emerged onto the path. Relief flooded him when he saw her alive and well enough to smile. Cheng Xiaoyu, everyone called her Xiao Yuer, jogged up and grinned. Brother-in-law, what are you doing here? I heard you'd run into violent resistance, Yewudao said. I was worried, so I came to see for myself. I'm fine, she replied. Most of it was our workers holding things together. But your workers took a beating. He glanced at the crew. They were all thick-set men, built for hard work, but now their faces were bruised and swollen. The sight made him frown. Were there many villagers involved? How did they end up like this? Cheng Xiaoyu shook her head. Not many people fought, but the ones who did were strange, small and wiry, like monkeys, but they fought better than these men. Yewudao's expression darkened into thought. Those villagers had been unusually strong and resilient. Now that he knew rejuvenation grass was here, the pieces fell into place. The herb could heal ailments, and even for the healthy, it conferred a notable strengthening of the body. The fabled effects of the 10 most precious herbs were no myth. He wanted a closer look at the villagers and their condition. He asked Cheng Xiaoyu, "Do you know why they're resisting the demolition?" "Those who insult the gods and handsome men will die. Those who insult the gods and handsome men will die." Cheng Xiaoyu shook her head. "I don't know. I tried to talk to them, but they started hitting people for no reason." Yewudao said, "All right, you all go back first. I'll go check it out." "Brother-in-law, I'll go with you," Cheng Xiaoyu hurriedly insisted. She wasn't worried about danger. Please. With the god of war at her side, what was there to fear? Ye Wudao, however, shook his head. No, take the workers to get treated first. We'll cover all the medical expenses. Cheng Xiaoyu looked disappointed, but didn't argue with the god of war. She sighed and left with the others. Ye Wudao went straight to Zhou village. The crowd that had gathered at the village entrance was breaking up, though a handful of people stayed behind to guard it. The leader of the group was Zhou Hu. He saw Ye Wudao and immediately tensed. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" he demanded, clearly afraid Ye might be from the demolition crew. Before Ye could answer, a thin figure suddenly leapt out of the crowd. "Lao Ye, I'll be damned. It's really you. I didn't expect to run into you here." Ye frowned and examined the man. A moment later, recognition clicked into place. It was Zhao Dianping, his old cellmate. Dianping had made a living stealing e-bike batteries. When he got caught, he raised a fuss about being unable to work and ended up a laughingstock. They'd done time in the same cell. Dianping used to filch small trinkets from the guards to share with Ye, and the two had gotten along well. Ye smiled slightly. "Lao Zhou, what a coincidence. What are you doing here?" "This is my hometown," Dianping replied. "And you, what brings you here?" Zhou Hu, impatient, asked. "Zhou Dianping, who is this guy?" "He's my old cellmate, Lao Ye," Dianping said quickly. Zhou Hu and his cronies burst out laughing. "So he's a former reform-through-labor prisoner too, huh? The bond formed in a cell is real. Y'all should have a drink." Ye Wudao's glance at Zhou Hu sharpened. The look in his eyes carried a threat. Those who insult the god of war will die. Zhou Dianping, sensing the tension, grabbed Ye's hand and steered him into the village. "Lao Ye, come on, let's have a drink." Ye noticed right away that Dianping was stronger than he'd been in prison. He'd likely been taking the rejuvenation grass. He pulled a stalk of the herb from his pocket and showed it to Dianping. "You know what this is?" "Of course," Dianping said. "White-faced dandelion, grows all over the fields by the village entrance." "You've eaten it?" Ye asked. "I have," Dianping answered, shrugging. "But it tastes awful. I don't like it. I usually cut white-faced dandelion to feed the pigs." Those words landed like a blow. A single stalk of rejuvenation grass could fetch tens of millions on the black market. He'd been feeding tens, maybe hundreds of millions worth of it to pigs. He felt a sharp sting of frustration. "Serves you right for being poor," his thoughts scolded. "Hey, Lao Ye," Dianping added, eager. "Remember how I told you in prison I'd introduce my little sister when you got out? Well, today's perfect. I'll play matchmaker." Yi smiled wryly. "Once you've seen the ocean, other rivers feel small. Once you've seen Wushan, other clouds lose their charm." After meeting Shu Linger and seeing her kindness and beauty, how could he ever be interested in someone else? They laughed and chatted on the walk, and soon they were at Dianping's house, a modest rural courtyard. As they stepped inside, the scent of cooking filled the air. Dianping called into the small kitchen. "Mom, little sister, a friend of mine is here. Make a couple of small dishes. We'll drink a little." An older woman and a young girl came out of the makeshift kitchen. It was Dianping's mother and his sister, Zhou Xiaomei. Chapter 140. Don't know how to praise Zhou. Mother shot Ye Wudao a displeased look. "Dianping, who is this?" Zhou Dianping answered, a little embarrassed. "This is Lao Ye, the one I've told you about." Her expression darkened. "I don't mind you fooling around outside, but why would you bring someone like this home?" Zhou Xiaomei sneered. "Brother, is this the man you said you wanted to set me up with?" "Humph, marrying me off to an ex-con. What are you thinking?" Zhou Dianping panicked. "Xiaomei, shut up, that's nonsense." "I'm just speaking the truth," she said, smug. Their mother waved her off. "Xiaomei, ignore him. The food will be ready soon. Come help me." They went back into the makeshift kitchen, leaving the two men standing there. Zhou Dianping looked mortified. Lao Ye, don't mind them. They're sharp-tongued but mean well." Ye Wudao smiled wryly. It was clear Dianping had little standing at home. His mother and sister treated him without a shred of respect. No matter. This man had helped him when he was at rock bottom. Tonight, he would return the favor and shore up his friend's dignity. He led Dianping into the room. On a table by the door sat good wine and dishes that smelled tempting. Dianping's mouth watered, and he was about to pick up his chopsticks when his sister swept in and took everything away. "What are you doing, Xiaomei?" he protested. "Are these dishes for entertaining you?" she said blatantly. Joe Hu will be here soon to talk about the demolition and our marriage arrangements. Wait until he arrives, then you can eat with him. Honestly, how did I end up with such a useless brother? If we had any other men in the family, I wouldn't let you sit at the table and embarrass me." Dianping's hands shook with anger. "You're going too far. My friend is here." Ye Wudao patted his shoulder and offered him a cigarette. "Don't get mad." Dianping lowered his head, utterly humiliated. "Sigh, Lao Ye, you've seen me at my worst." Ye only gave a small, quiet smile. A booming laugh came from the courtyard. "Third aunt, Xiaomei, what smells so good in here?" Zhou Hu arrived. Zhou Mother and Zhou Xiaomei rushed out to greet him. "Huzi, come in, come in. Today your aunt made your favorite, braised pork." "Brother Hu, you're getting handsomer every day." Xiaomei cooed. Their fawning contrasted sharply with the way they'd treated Dianping. He felt his face darken and muttered, "What a piece of work." Zhou Hu followed Xiaomei inside. When he saw Ye Wudao, his eyes lit up. "Oh, what a coincidence. You're here too." "You two know each other?" Xiaomei asked, surprised. "We just met at the village entrance," Zhou Hu said casually. "Isn't he Dianping's cellmate?" "Perfect. I'm curious about prison life. Later, you'll have to tell me all about it." Xiaomei narrowed her eyes and smiled. "Yes, 5 years inside. He should know everything about life behind bars." They kept bringing up the prison thing, and Dianping finally snapped. "Enough. Lao Ye, let's go eat outside," he tried to suggest, eager to escape the humiliation. Xiaomei frowned. "Eat out? Do you have money? Brother Hu is being gracious by sitting with you. Don't be ungrateful." Ye Wudao again patted Dianping's shoulder and said, "Since the food's ready, let's just stay. Don't make a scene." "But," Dianping hesitated, unwilling. "Sit down," Ye said firmly, guiding him into a chair. Zhou Hu grinned. "Dianping, you should learn from Lao Ye. Being thick-skinned is how you get by in this world.